Hi everybody, welcome to Active Self-Protection Extra. Today, something a little bit different. I had one of our app subscribers, send me a video of Colion Noir reacting or kind of talking about a John Lott story and whether or not he would carry a Burna pepper launcher as an alternative to a firearm. It was sent to me because the person said, well, wait a minute, he says don't carry OC spray. So I thought we would watch it together and let's see what we think. So this is one of those react videos. Palm pepper spray is next generation OC spray. It's hot at 1.4% major capsaicinoids, and its modular design means you can customize it exactly to you. 3 different setups, lots of different color combinations. You can make it exactly as you like. And the flip top safety prevents accidental discharges. It's 10 to 12 foot range and 25 half-second blasts. Make sure that you can keep that long range eye poke at long range. I trust Palm OC and I recommend it for everyone for self-defense. Now let me say at the start, I have met, everybody knows him as Colion Noir. His real name is Collins. And I've met him. We actually did an event together at SHOT Show in, I think, like 2019. And so, I've run into him a few times. I bet you I've texted him a couple times since then. So, it's not like we're strangers, but I certainly wouldn't call him a friend, all right? We both have YouTube channels. His has just over 3 million subscribers. Our big one has 3.5. So we're both kind of in that space where we might go to events like the NRA annual meetings and meet there, or SHOT Show and see each other there in passing and those things, because we do different things, right? He is kind of a lifestyle entertainer and a kind of a Second Amendment lifestyle guy, whereas I'm an educator and a self-defense expert. So we're in adjacent but separate lanes. I have no problem with him whatsoever. He does what he does, and that's great. It's kind of not my normal kind of bag. I'm not really much of a lifestyle gun guy. To me, they're bullet throwers and tools, but okay. Again, no problem and no big deal. And I got no beef with somebody who is in that lane. I also know that Collins has passed the bar in the state of Texas. I think, let's see, he got his law degree at the Thurgood Marshall School of Law at Texas Southern and passed the bar in Texas. So he is a lawyer. I don't know that he's ever practiced law, and I don't know if he has any specific additional training in self-defense, in justification, and in use of force, all right? Remember, your average attorney, I say this all the time, that your average attorney gets one 45-minute lecture in criminal law in their first year of law school on self-defense, justification, and the use of force. That's it. And that's not because they're bad people. That's because there's a ton about the law that you have to know, and the law is this vast, broad monster, and they have to learn so much about the law and every nuance of it. They could never be experts in everything, okay? And as a lawyer has to be an inch deep and a mile wide in the law in order to pass the bar, okay? I ain't that guy. I'm not a lawyer, and I don't want to be one. I am an inch wide and a mile deep in self-defense, justification, and use of force. So we're in different spots. Great, we understand that, right? So as far as I know, also, now again, I could be wrong on this, okay? But as far as I know, I don't think he has any kind of formal training in terms of being a firearms instructor, in terms of being a use of force instructor, in terms of any of those things, all right? I know he's trained some. I know he can shoot pretty well. And again, no beef here, all right? I'm not trying to pull a Mike Israetel and talk a bunch of crap and do that stuff. I respect Mike too. Just recognize, somebody asked me about this, so I thought we'd watch it. So let's do that together, shall we? All right, let's go.
So I've never carried pepper spray in my life.
I'm just going to start there and say that's wrong. I'm just going to start right there and say that I just think that is probably a mistake. That if you've never carried pepper spray, I recommend as a self-defense trainer, as somebody who watches and analyzes and does use of force for a living. He says, I've never carried pepper spray in my life. Now, I know he carries a firearm, but he says, I've never used any kind of OC spray and I don't carry anything like that. I think that's a mistake. I'm not going to be at your gunfight. You do whatever you want. But that old adage says if the only tool you have is a hammer, you tend to treat every problem like it's a nail. And I can tell you a couple of statistics. I don't want to dig into all the stuff, but the Bureau of Justice Statistics Uniform Crime Report says that 80% assaults in America every year are simple assaults. So 4 out of 5 assaults in America, a firearm is useless for. And if you shoot somebody that assaults you that's not an aggravated assault or a deadly threat, then you're going to go to prison. And that's a bad thing. That's not a win. And an OC spray is very useful for those 80% of assaults. It doesn't necessarily replace a firearm. Okay, they both have their niche. So I carry both, and I strongly recommend both. Now, again, if you're only going to carry one or the other, honestly, I'd say carry a pepper spray because it's going to be more useful in more situations than a firearm will. But I do recommend to carry both because when you need a firearm, it's the only thing that'll do. All right, there's that. Let's keep going.
Not once. I don't really think I ever will, at least not carrying pepper spray over a gun, that is.
Okay, that was a good clarification. He said, I don't know that I ever will carry a pepper spray over a gun, that is. Okay, I think that my worry here, and I don't know where we're gonna go, all right? We'll see how this one goes. My worry here is he's gonna say, oh, people are saying I should pepper spray somebody that I really should shoot. I don't know anybody who's in that kind of environment or who kind of thinks that. I think that, or at least in the defensive training space, who thinks that. I mean, again, I think a pepper spray, I can tell you of several cases of people who used a firearm that I think were justified uses of deadly force that probably would have been better solved with a pepper spray and would certainly have been solved with a lot less legal ramifications if they'd have used a pepper spray. So I think that saying, well, carry a pepper spray, not a gun, is a bit of a non sequitur. I don't think most people say that. If you want to, you're afraid to carry a gun or you don't want to for whatever reason, okay, that's fine. Then carry an OC spray if you're interested in self-defense. But it's not an either or, and I think that false dichotomy here is probably not doing him real well. Let's carry on.
But John Lott wrote this article about non-lethal self-defense, and it got me thinking. Not thinking differently about it, just thinking in general, because
all right, so he says that John Lott got him thinking about things. Okay, I would say, John Lott and his writing is very good. John is, again, I've met John. I bet you, I don't know if he would know who the heck I am. Quite frankly, I've actually had a meal with Dr. Lott, and that was at the Carry Guard Expo, I think in 2017. So it's been a long time. It's been like 8 years now. And good. You get somebody thinking, I like that. That's good. And maybe Collins is thinking about this for the first time. And maybe, who knows, if somebody sends him this video and it makes him think about it some more. So when you start thinking about things, sometimes you just don't know what you don't know, right? And that's okay too. Let's move on.
I don't think I've ever really talked about this before. You see, Lott is the president of the Crime Prevention Research Center. He's been on my podcast a bunch of times, and his article's name is called A Lethal Non-Firearm Alternative. In it, he talks about Burna, a company that makes these pepper ball guns that aren't legally firearms, but kind of look like firearms in the shape and form for the most part.
Okay, I'm gonna say right now, this is about the Burna, and I am generally not a fan, okay? And it's not Burna as a brand. I got no beef with the brand. I don't know what their pepper formulation is. I haven't even looked at it, but what I tell you, what I don't like is that it looks like a gun and functions like a gun. And we have had one on the big channel of somebody successfully using a Burna to threaten basically a tweaker who was kind of trying to get into their house, and he threatened him, pointed a Burna at him, and the guy hecked off. Okay, fine, but people could mistake that for a firearm just like that, and that could go bad for you in a lot of ways. I really don't like that. I want my OC spray to look and function differently than our firearm, and we also want that, we've seen this, I've said the same thing about tasers, that, when it looks like a firearm, when I have to press a trigger like my firearm, we get these slip and capture errors like happened to Kim Potter, and that slip and capture error got her convicted of manslaughter and sent to prison. And so, I mean, the manslaughter statute it was kind of built for it, quite frankly. And so I don't recommend that. I want my OC spray to come from a different place, to feel different, to look different, to function different, so that I am absolutely sure that I am using that and not a gun. And I don't want anybody to mistake it for a gun. So I'm not a big fan of the Burna. Let's carry on.
So in it, he writes, burner launchers are not classified as firearms under federal law, and in most states, people can carry them legally, even in places where guns are banned. Now, let me say this. I'm never going to carry a pepper spray gun in place of an actual gun.
I think that's wise, actually. Okay, so I don't have any problems with what he's doing here. That, I'm not going to carry a pepper gun in place of a gun if I have the ability to carry a gun. I agree with him there. I'm not going to do that either.
It's not happening, because the idea of betting my life on whether or not the guy trying to kill me has a low pain tolerance, nah.
Okay, back up a second here again. This evidences to me that Collins doesn't understand OC spray very well. Okay, and again, I don't blame him for that. We all got blind spots here, all love. But his pain tolerance is low. Tell me you've never taken an OC spray exposure without telling me. All right, we've had a couple of them on the channel. Natalie, the range monkey, took one on camera. I have taken one, and I'm not going to take another. I tell you what. And yes, the chief ingredient in OC spray is pain. But if you don't understand the lacrimation process, if you don't understand when you get hit with that, the aerosolized OC, and it slams your eyes shut, and your eyes are, you're going to have to literally pry them open. It's not about can you handle the pain. It's about the debilitating nature of what it does to all of your mucous membranes in your eyes, in your nose, in your mouth, in your ears. So, well, I just don't want to make sure, as long as he's got a high pain tolerance, that's kind of ignorant of how the oleoresin capsicum works, frankly. So my suggestion, if this gets back to Collins, is to take an OC spray exposure. I think you might change your mind on that. Let's carry on.
I'm not doing that. Even handguns aren't great man stoppers. Most of us carry 9mm, and even that can fail to stop someone right away. So stepping down to a non-lethal option just doesn't do it for me. But I have started thinking about it lately, not as a replacement for my gun, but maybe as an option in places where I can't carry, right?
Okay, so you're saying in an option in places that you can't carry. I think there's some value in that. And in many places, if you're traveling here in the US, that's a thing you got to kind of think through, right? Like, I can't carry a firearm legally today in the state of California. They don't recognize any out-of-state permits. And I have family in California, and so we go there sometimes, and we like to visit foreign countries. But an OC spray is acceptable there. Okay. So that's a good place, and that's a good thing to have. And again, 80% of assaults are regular assaults, very useful against things like aggressive dogs, without ending up having to go through the entire justice system for shooting. And trust me, I've got stories to come on that. Can't really talk about them yet. But in places where you can't, recognize that plenty of places, a lot of places, if they ban firearms, they will ban chemical agents too. So for instance, if you're like, oh, I'm going to go to a major sporting event, they ban the OC spray just like they ban the firearm. Okay. So you're not going to make it through the metal detection. You got to go to court. You ain't bringing a pepper spray in court. Okay. You shouldn't even think about it. You'll end up with charges if you try. So just be cautious of that. Just because it says, well, it's not a firearm, so I can take it anywhere. Check your laws. Okay. It's better, but check your laws. Let's carry on.
Now, I don't own any non-lethal tools, just guns and knives.
I don't own any non-lethal tools, just guns or knives. Now, all right, where to start with this one? Okay, listen, you don't gotta own nothing. I can't tell you that you gotta own something. He's a lawyer, and I think that he should see that if you take this route, especially when you say stuff like that on camera, a prosecutor can use that against you, right? If you end up having to shoot somebody and you think this video is going to get played in court, you don't even think about less lethal stuff. You don't think about having anything else. You just have guns and knives, right? I don't think that's great. Now, I've heard people say on the other side, well, if you're carrying a pepper spray, then they'll ask you, well, why didn't you use that? It's very easy to answer if it's an imminent deadly threat. It's not appropriate to use a less lethal tool against an imminent deadly threat. But that problem exists that if you only have a hammer, you treat every problem like it's a nail, and that is a problem. And so not even owning one. So like you think, and maybe you say, hey, wait a minute, Jack Johnson and Tom O'Leary here, those are my jams. All right, if that's how you think and that's what you think is gonna go, I'm down. I would just say, okay, but listen, I got 19 years of martial arts study, okay? I have a second degree black belt, an earned second degree, not a degree mill degree, an earned second degree in a derivative of Kempo known as Umas. And I've got about 18 months of rolling jiu-jitsu. And so I'm pretty good with my hands, okay? I'm good empty-handed. I carry an OC spray because I don't want to use those empty-handed skills because they put me at risk. If I need to, I will, but I would rather have something an eye poke in a can that I can use from a longer range. It's a much more useful tool.
Call me barbaric. That's it. But every now and then I go to places that are gun-free zones. And in those moments, I do think to myself, would having something like this be better than nothing?
The problem that I see here, okay, so he says, would having something like a Burna pistol be better than nothing in a gun-free zone? Okay, I think I see what he's on to here, but I want you to notice what that Burna pistol looks like. What does it look like? It looks like a gun. And so if you get made, if you're concealing a Burna, because I mean, if you openly carry it for sure, but they're gonna notice it. But if you conceal it and then it gets made, they're gonna look at you like you got a gun. And let me tell you what, man, if you're carrying that in a place where they've banned firearms, it's gonna get you a ton of attention. Whereas, honest to goodness, guys, I have carried an OC spray in places and even in places where that is kind of lower permission, and it doesn't set the radar off. It doesn't get the anger. It doesn't run the risk of freaking out security and that milkshake bringing all the cops to the yard when you're in it. So I wouldn't recommend a Burna for that reason. Again, it looks like a gun and functions like a gun, and people are going to treat it like you're pointing a gun at them. I don't like that. Let's carry on.
And yeah, but carrying both at the same time, that's just not realistic for me.
Yeah, I agree with him that that's not realistic. Carrying both at the same time, a Burna and a gun. I mean, maybe, you put the Burna on your support side. You're like a cop with their taser on one side and their firearm on another. But I mean, obviously, you're going to have to find ways to conceal both. And I don't recommend carrying two guns for most people. For the vast majority of folks, carry one really, really high quality gun that is reliable. But again, I think the Burna is not the only way to have OC. I carry a palm unit. I don't have one sitting right here, but it's a little guy. It sits in my pocket. It doesn't take up the space that a gun does. So I think it's kind of a non sequitur.
I don't carry a purse and I don't want a pepper spray launcher bouncing around in my pocket. Yeah, I carry a sling bag sometimes, but that's very efficient. It's designed to carry my iPad, chargers, maybe a knife, and that's it. So no, I'm not carrying both, but I do get why some people would.
I don't disagree with him here, but I think where the non sequitur, I think the problem is that he's equating, carrying a Burna to carrying OC. And that's a big unit rather than, again, a little small guy.
Some people just don't want to carry a gun. They don't like the idea of taking a life, and that's fine. Lott even says in the article, many people are reluctant to use lethal force to protect themselves. They want to defend themselves, but they don't want to kill someone. And I get that. Taking a life, even in self-defense, isn't something people just bounce back from. It hits different. Everybody processes this differently. So for people like that, non-lethal makes sense. It gives them something, some kind of tool to defend themselves. And if that's what gets them into the mindset of personal responsibility and self-defense, shit, good. Maybe that's their first step. Some people start non-lethal and then eventually start carrying a gun. Some don't. I just jumped in head first. But what I don't want people to do is overestimate what this stuff can do.
Okay, I actually don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with it. I don't want you to overestimate what an OC spray can do. We have bunches on the main channel. Go over to the main channel and there are bunches of uses of less lethal tools. I got bunches of OC spray uses there. And you can see how it functions. Colion is saying here, oh, well, don't overestimate what it can do, but don't underestimate it either. Believe it or not, we've got a really good track record of OC spray. OC spray about 90% effective, okay? About 10% of people are low effect on OC spray. Remember, it's not about do you like spicy food? It's not about Do you, do you have a resistance genetically? None of that stuff. Just some people, it doesn't affect as much. About 10% of people kind of like, oh, that's kind of miserable. Yeah, that sucks. Moving on. And they just have a low response to it. But about 90% of people, it's a fight stopper. Takes the starch right out of their jammies. So don't underestimate it either.
That's the problem. People think carrying pepper spray means they're automatically safe, but that's just not how it works.
I got to be honest with you. Again, I don't disagree with him here, but I want to also say people do the same thing with guns. Okay, so I know people that carry a gun and they go, I'm safe. That's not true. As Jeff Cooper is very famous for saying, owning a gun makes you a defender like owning a guitar makes you a musician, right? It's the skill to use it that really determines that one way or the other. So now, that said, I see untrained people use a gun as a noisemaker and as a rattlesnake rattle all the time, and it works effectively, okay? A handgun is a very effective tool at achieving the end goals. But so is an OC spray. So just be aware of that. And just because you put a gun on your person doesn't mean that you're safe. Just because you put an OC spray in your pocket doesn't mean you're safe. Moving on.
Criminals don't care about being uncomfortable. They don't care that you're trying to play nice. They came to hurt you. And some of them can take the pain and still keep coming.
Okay, I don't disagree with that again. Criminals are there to hurt you. Be cautious with that. The vast majority of people that are participating in this crime are willing to hurt you, right? But most of this is what we call resource predation. Most of this that we see on the big channel is them trying to steal your stuff. They're trying to steal your car. They're trying to steal your wallet, your iPhone, the cash in the till, the things in your house, okay? Now, of course, process predators are different, all right? So rapists are different, and that's a different animal entirely, and we gotta deal with that. Somebody who wants you dead personally because of something you did to them, so you got a personal beef, totally different monster. Stay in school, kids. Don't do drugs and eat your vegetables. But for the vast majority of time, they want to threaten you. They're willing to harm you, but what they want is your stuff. So that level of sadism is reserved for some real sociopaths. Just be aware of that.
Now, could it work? Absolutely. Some attackers will stop the second things get inconvenient. Lott even compares it to bear spray. It makes the situation so uncomfortable that the bear or attacker decides it's not worth it. But not all bears or criminals think that way.
Okay, but he compares it to bear spray. Bear spray is OC spray. Full stop, okay? So bear spray is a marketing term. In some places, I think in Canada, it has an actual percentages. There's an actual a percentage of major capsaicinoids it has to be considered bear spray. But bear spray is just pepper spray. Usually it's in a big old fogger that projects a cone of fog like 30, 40 feet. So it's a big can, right? You want some standoff from a brown bear. Mm-hmm. You really do. And it tends to be effective. Why? Because bears are mammals. And they have the same mucous membrane kind of systems that we do. And pain sucks. And those mucous membranes really get after it. And guess what? The other part of that, whether it's bear spray, human spray, you're using it on a dog if you need to because a dog wants to use you as a chew toy, it doesn't injure, right? So it hurts like heck. It incapacitates because of the mucus response. But in an hour and a half, 2 hours, you're fine. If you get decontaminated in a half an hour, you're fine. It sucks for that half hour though. So
some will fight through it. And if all you've got is pepper spray, you're in trouble. And yeah, you could say the same about a gun. You shoot someone and they keep coming. But at least I've got more rounds. At least I've got more options. That's why I don't just stop at carrying the right weapon. I make sure that I carry the right gear too, especially when I'm going to the range. Oh,
now we're into a freaking an ad, and I am not going to play you his ad, okay? So I knew he was coming up to an ad read here. Here's the thing about about his thing with, at least I have other options. Well, you've got more spritzes of the OC spray. You've got hands, you've got run. What you really want from an OC spray is to give you a chance to break contact, right? Remember, as a private citizen, your mission is to break contact from deadly threats, right? You're not a cop. You're not trying to take people into custody. Your mission is to break contact. So an OC spray can give you that option in many cases. Let's carry on.
The same thing applies here with non-lethal tools. If you're gonna carry it, train with it. Know it, understand the limitations, understand the risk. It's like I said when I talked about 22 Magnum for self-defense. Yeah, it can stop someone, but it's not ideal, and you better know what you're doing. Same goes for pepper spray. You might miss. You might get blowback. You might just piss the guy off.
Okay, I want to stop here because he's conflating here. So he's talking about the Burna, which is a pepper ball launcher, but yet talking about pepper spray and blowback and those things. So it seems to me he's conflating the two, which I would expect a little better of him as a lawyer, quite frankly, because this is confusing and again, enmeshing a couple things that are different. So which one are we talking about here? I don't like the Burna. I don't like pepper ball launchers. You know, if you see them, Phoenix PD, we've had a couple of instances of their pepper launchers, which have some benefit, and I think as an area denial tool can be very effective, but we've seen them whack a dude like 40 pepper balls, and the guy just like, whatever, dude. So I have a challenge with those because I don't think they're very effective. And I think the Burna pepper launcher is falling in that category, and I don't think that the pepper that's in it is any better or more effective. And the other part of the Burna is that because it's in that little pepper ball, if you miss him, then it's gone, right? There's no effect whatsoever because you just missed. And then if you hit him, okay, fine. If you hit him in the chest, it pops and it gets up in his face, that's great. But what if you hit him in the face? If you hit him in the face, you hit him in the eye, there's likely to do some serious damage to his eye. And that could be considered lethal force. So if you're using a pepper ball gun and you miss and hit him in a sensitive area, when he's not a deadly threat, you could be at risk. That's why I don't like those. Let's listen into what he has to say the rest.
So if you're gonna go that route, cool. Just don't treat it like a keychain accessory. Train with it the same way you would a firearm, because when things go sideways, you're not gonna have time to figure it out. And you might only get one shot to get it right.
I love this, okay? I really like his insistence here on training. So thumbs up from me on that. I think that if you're going to carry a tool, whether it's a firearm, OC spray, empty hands, all that, make sure that you're trained. Good.
So no, Lott's article didn't change my mind. I'm still not trading my gun for pepper spray, but it did make me want to have the conversation because a lot of people are looking for ways to defend themselves without going full lethal, and they deserve good info, not fantasy. So let me know where you stand. Would you carry something like the Burna? Do you already? Drop it in the comment section.
Okay, so now he's in the into the comment section on that. Okay, so at the end of things, what do we think here? So Mr. Colion Noir, I think that he doesn't understand pepper spray real well and doesn't understand how it functions, and you can see that here. Now, I do think that's a challenge. And again, he is a media personality, an entertainer, a gun lifestyle guy. And so that's kind of outside his lane. And I think that, you know, kind of commenting on stuff that's lane adjacent to you, that kind of lane creep problem gets us all from time to time. I just think that I wish that he had done a little bit more training himself on it, like gone beyond the Burna launcher to actual OC sprays, right? And again, the one that we recommend is Palm OC. And the reason we do is because we've tested it thoroughly and we have lots of instances of its effective use, both on the channel and in life of our staff. I've used it personally. I've had to OC spray dogs with it. And there's not too many companies that make a formula that they batch test that I can stand behind. And of the ones that do, the only one that is run by a really good, heartfelt person whose business I want to encourage is Alex from Palm. So that's my recommendation, right? And I think that it's great. Colion Noir, Collins IDN is, you know, he's a lawyer. He's passed the bar. He's fully able to practice law in the state of Texas. And I don't know if he does or not, but it's clear that he doesn't really understand OC spray very well. He doesn't have any kind of real depth of knowledge of that. So whenever you see those kind of things and you see these kind of internet celebrities that are opining on things, one of the things that I want you to ask the question of is, do they know what they're talking about? Do they have expertise in this area? Are they more than a casual kind of lane adjacent person commenting? And it's not different than, like, man, guys, so just being transparent, like, as somebody with a large social media presence, people have asked me about stuff and they're like, John, what do you think about this thing in politics? I'm like, I'm not somebody you want to listen to about politics. I'm an absolute amateur. I'm an enthusiast because it affects me too, but I don't have any kind of expertise to be able to tell you what to do in that particular circumstance or situation. And there are some people that would buy whatever toothpaste that I recommend. And that to me is stupid because, again, I'm not 9 out of 10 dentists agree. I don't have that level of expertise in those areas. So I think be cautious of that, right? Make sure that you're looking for not only what does, okay, even if he had some real credentials in the area of less lethal, is what he's saying in line with kind of what the industry standard is, and do multiple experts kind of say, yeah, that's a good way to look at things. Now, maybe there's some disagreement among experts about A or B, but hey, there's a good, strong cadre of people who see this as a valuable thing, and they have good experience and good backing and reasoning and evidence for what they believe. I think that that's a better way to go. So I think that he had some good things to say here about training, about knowing what the limitations of your tools are. I like that. I think you had some things to say there about, would I carry both of those? No, I wouldn't carry both a Burna and a gun. I do carry an OC spray and a gun because I think that makes a lot of sense. Because again, if the only tool you've got is a hammer, you tend to treat every problem like it's a nail, and not every problem is a nail. So thanks for sending it in to me. This particular one sent to us by ASP Unlimited subscriber Michael, and I appreciate you, Michael. Thanks for sending that in. If you find stuff that you want to do that, you can get a hold of me in the app as well if you are an app subscriber, and we will get after answering stuff like this too. Hope you guys have a great day.